وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue in this tremendous treatise of Kitaab At-Tawheed, and we ask Allah to allow us to complete this whole tremendous treatise as has been completed before. But the more we complete this book, the more it will be a tremendous reward, inshallah, and a blessing for our communities and for our people. And it will be from those service, inshallah, that we did for the religion of Allah by trying to establish His monotheism in the earth and trying to eradicate and disseminate polytheism and the widespread of this light in which the people will be able by it to return to what is correct and the truth. As the time, as we know, as the time for Hajj is approaching, it is very close. And inshallah, bi'idhnillah, we'll be announcing about the affair of the Eid very, very soon, inshallah. As the Eid approximately, I would say, is about another 2 weeks and that, maybe some days. That's it. 2 weeks and some days, approximately. So, bi'idhnillah Jalla wa Az will inform the people of what will be or where it will be established very soon, inshallah. We continue in the chapter of, and we actually almost finish the chapter where it's not permissible, that it's not being offered as a sacrifice for Allah in a place where it was offered as a sacrifice for other than Him. We explained the hadith of Thabit ibn al-Dahhak al-Ashhali, the great Sahabi radiyallahu anhu. As we explained in the tremendous, or this narration, I'm sorry everyone for this narration, we were given the different types of nadhr. And we said that there would be more details to come inshallah in the next chapter. But we said another, no doubt, is an aspect or it's a type of worship. And that's going to come. We don't think we need to talk about that right now because that's in the next chapter. But for regards to what we just mentioned about this particular narration, we were given some details of the different types of vow or vow that one would take. In regards to what is another ta'ah or vow of obedience or vow of disobedience or vow that's similar to swearing, and a vow that's what they call ghadab al-lijaj, or what one does out of anger or in order to establish the truth or to establish something being false or a lie or what have you. And also what was detested. And also, likewise, what was not actually specified. We went over that from last class, and we gave different examples of another. We notice in the narration of the Prophet ﷺ, if you look in the authority of Thabit ibn Dahhak, that it said that the Prophet ﷺ, after he investigated and attained a little bit more details in this narration here, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned the last part, Awfi bi nadharik, Awfi bi nadharik. He says, fulfill your vow. He said, for verily there is no fulfillment for a vow in disobedience to Allah, nor in what Ibn Adam does not own. So, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ also likewise clarified in this narration, given some more details in this aspect of worship. As we talked about, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwan, Nadhr is an aspect of what? It's an ibadah. It's an ibadah. But that's not the point of reference or why the great Imam, rahimahullah, put it in the chapter, right everyone? That's not the reason. The reason was for what? That the actual nadhr, the vow that he was supposed to fulfill, was offering those groups, the group of camels, as a sacrifice for Allah in that place called Buwana. So don't lose sight of the what? Of the affair at hand, or the matter at hand. So don't get confused. Because a lot of people keep hearing vow, but the affair is not speaking about that. Still, we're in the chapter of what? The affair is talking about slaughtering or sacrificing for Allah. So we didn't get to nothing actually yet, but we're just giving a little, if you want to say for lack of better words, an introduction to what is to come. But the affair at hand, and what we've been discussing for the past couple of lessons, is what it says. What is what, everyone? What it says that he had took a vow to slaughter a group of camels. In one narration, as it comes to Sunnah Abi Dawood, khamsina ibilan, 50 camels. 50 she camels was taken as a vow or to perform this worship that the man took a vow to offer as a sacrifice. So it said, Awfi bi nadharik. So the Prophet ﷺ said, fulfill your vow. For verily there's no fulfillment for a vow in disobedience of Allah. So that's the first condition. So a vow, if one was to do it, then what? It would have to be obedience. It cannot be disobedience. And secondly, he has to be in an affair of something that is in his ownership or under his ownership. It cannot be something that is what? That it is not in your possession or you do not own it. You cannot say, for example, if Allah cures my sister from this sickness or this disease, then it's upon me for Allah to sell Muhammad's car or give away Muhammad's car as sadaqah. You cannot say that because you do not own it. It's not in your possession. So this particular narration, like we said, is what? Is in regards to the two conditions that one has to fulfill if he wants to perform the aspect or the worship of what they call another. So we say, يا معشر الإخوة ويا معشر الأخوات ومن يستمع عبر الشبكة, and those who are listening online. For number one, we say that all these narrations, what is benefited from it, what is what? Number one, everyone, that one does not offer as a sacrifice anything for Allah if it was being done in that place, a type of polytheism, which is offering a sacrifice to other than Allah. So that's number one. And that is the reason why the great Imam had what? Put and utilized this particular narration as evidence to put under this chapter. Because if the Prophet ﷺ is investigated and he inquired about a type of evil that was taking place, that if it was there, then he would told him what? Don't do it. So it's from the mukhalafatul mafhum, from the aspect of what? What they call mukhalafatul mafhum, of what was the opposite of what is understood from the hadith. Meaning that if this was present, then it wouldn't be permissible for him to offer as a sacrifice in that particular place. So the first thing, as we know, the reason for why the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had prohibited this matter of sacrificing in that particular place. Number one is because it will what? It will lead him down the road of resembling the mushrikeen. So that's number one. It will lead him down the road of resembling the polytheists. So if a person right now, can you imagine, if they was offered as a sacrifice in that particular place, and the Muslims offered as a sacrifice in that particular place, isn't that a type of resemblance? Isn't it? So it's a type of resemblance. So for that reason, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, you know what page we are? You know where we are? I can't see. Show it to Amir. Show it to Amir. No. For verily it will lead to what? Resembling the mushrikeen. Also likewise, it will also cause a type of confusion. A confusion, and for one to be fooled by this particular action. For the one who sees that it's offered as a sacrifice in this particular place, that what the mushrikeen are actually doing is permissible. For a person that is what? Ignorant. That sees this particular act being done in that place. And, like we said, one could be misled. He could be what? He could be misled, thinking that particular act is what? Is what, everyone? permissible. So out of precautionary measures, you'll find that the Shara', with the Kitaab and Sunnah, close off all the doors for one to fall down the aspect or the road of polytheism. So number one, of course, as the Muslims, especially in the affairs, fundamentally, we have been prohibited to resemble any type of worship with the worship of the mushrikeen. So that's number one. So number two, also likewise, of what we just mentioned and just said, of what it will lead down, of what it will cause of one being misled and fooled and beguiled by this particular action. If one who was ignorant was to see this being done in this place, that if the mushrikeen or the polytheists was to slaughter, then one would think that what they are doing is permissible. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. Another third reason of why they say that this particular act of why the Prophet ﷺ and why the great Imam rahimahullah put this in the chapter, it will also give some type of shawka, some type of strength to the polytheists in order to make them feel that they're being the leader of this particular so-called act. We started it, we did it. Now you following behind us. So if we've been slaughtering, offering this particular place. Now you guys are coming behind us and slaughtering. So you following behind us. So that's the reason why you'll find that Ahl Ilm mention this regard. They say, أن هؤلاء المشركين سوف يقوون على فعلهم إذا رأوا من يفعل مثلهم ولا شك أن تقوية المشركين من الأمور المحظورة to the end of it. These polytheists that they were what? So-called, they will strengthen themselves. And they will build up their what? They'll build up their strength upon this act. If they see the one who's doing similar to what they're doing. And no doubt that strengthening the polytheists is from those prohibited affairs. To make them think that they're what? That they're the leaders of a so-called act, that we started this act, and giving them that type of what? Mentality. And building their so-called, if you want to say, their so-called, what's the word I'm looking for? They're building up their misleading or their so-called flamboyance in themselves to think that they're what? Doing something correct to the point where the Muslims are following them in that. So these are the reasons of why, like we said, why it's prohibited to do what? These particular acts. As far as slaughtering in that particular place where the mushrikeen were likewise offering a sacrifice. You'll find also likewise that Ahl Ilm, which we'll talk about inshallah. And I think we spoke about this a couple of lessons ago. We mentioned this. We said similar to that is how the Muslims have been prohibited, like us, Ahl Ilm, the people of Islam, the people upon the truth. Also the Prophet ﷺ had prohibited that certain types of ibadah be done in certain times. In certain times. Likewise, for example, the shuruq, during the shuruq al-shams, when the sun is coming up. And likewise, not when the sun is coming up and it's fully up. Now when it's fully up, it's permissible to do a certain aspect of ibadah. When it's fully up. But when it's coming up, that's that time where it's what? Prohibited to do aspects of worship. And likewise, certain time after Asr. Due to the fact that the Prophet ﷺ had prohibited that what? That in those times, that is the time where the mushrikeen used to worship their deities and their idols. In which the Messenger of Allah prohibited that ibadah be done in that particular time. Out of what? Out of fear of resemblance to what they were doing. So that's the reason you'll find here in this particular instance, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited that worship be done in a particular place. And in other aspects you'll find that he prohibited that it be done at certain times. All of it out of what, everyone? Out of what? Out of what, Yusha? Is your mind with me? I need your mind with me. I don't want you to just hear for your body. I want you to hear with ذهنا. أريدك حاضر ذهنا لا جسما. I I want you to hear in your mind, not in your body. Fine. So the Prophet ﷺ prohibited that worship be done in those certain times out of resemblance of the polytheists. As far as when the sun comes up, then there are certain ibadat or worship that the Prophet ﷺ did prescribe and was laid down as a sunnah for us to follow. From that is the 2 raka'at that are done when the sun, as soon as it comes up. Maybe approximately 45 minutes, maybe an hour after Fajr. When the sun is fully up, the Prophet ﷺ, if a person remains in his place, and he says, فَمَنْ صَلَّى مَعَ الْجَمَاعَةِ, the hadith is authentic, Sahih al-Imam al-Albani. The hadith says, مَنْ صَلَّى مَعَ الْجَمَاعَةِ ثُمَّ قَاعَدَ فِي مَكَانِهِ حَتَّى تَطْلُعَ الشَّمْسِ ثُمَّ صَلَّى رَكَعَتَيْنِ فكان له مثل أجر الحج والعمرة تامة. So it says in narration. It says, whoever prays in Jama'ah, he says, then he sits in his place of his until the sun comes up. So notice the Prophet said in the hadith what? Until the what, everyone? The sun comes up. Then he prays 2 raka'at. He will have a reward similar to Hajj and Umrah. To Hajj and Umrah, tamma, as it says in the narration. He says, completely. So that particular worship is when the what? Sun actually comes up. Also, likewise, those other aspects of worship, such as Salatul Duha. The Salatul Duha is maybe about approximately, what does it say in the narration? Approximately, we would say about 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock. Maybe we say maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30, around that's usually the time for duha. Salatul duha will be done in that particular time, all the way up to dhuhr. So I don't know where people would say that one doesn't do worship from the time the sun comes up all the way to dhuhr. That's not true. There are certain ibadat that one could do, which is the 2 rak'at, as soon as it comes up, and Salatul duha. But the point of the matter, while we mention it here, this narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, what everyone? That the time when the mushrikeen are performing their worship is when what? Is that time when the sun is coming up and at the time when the sun is coming down, particularly around this time, I would say. Around this time we're in right now. It's those prohibited times where one should not perform worship. As far as sunnah after Asr, which I'll discuss later, if we have a time, person would say, well, what is a hadith that's in Silsila? It's also Riyadh al-Salihin, as it was brought into my attention before, that the hadith is authentic about praying 2 rakat after Asr. Yes, we do say that the hadith is authentic, yes. However, if you look to some of the times of the Salaf and the head of those who are from the Salaf, the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ did it in his house. Didn't do it around the people. And some of the Salaf who do it did it likewise. Why did you think they used to do it in the house? Out of fear that the people would think that is what? Not only wajib, that the fear out of the people that they will pray in, that they would start to pray at a time when it's prohibited, and they would be legalized to pray at a certain times at the Asr. So those who were ignorant would now be misled to doing something that was what? Impermissible. So one was to do it in his house, then let it do it in his house. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Fine. So this is in regards to what was praying, or what was mentioned in this regard of the title of what the mu'allif or the great imam mentioned this particular hadith. And like we said, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, the hadith has been related in Sunan Abi Dawud. Who's Sunan Abi Dawud? Or who's Abu Dawud? As we know, Abu Dawud was who, everyone, if you look in your books? As the hadith is Hasan. Isnaduhu ala shartihima. But who's Abu Dawud? Abu Dawud is who? What's his name? Sulaiman ibn Ash'ath ibn Ishaq ibn Bashir ibn Aus al-Azdi al-Sijistani rahimahullah. And his son was Abdullah. Abdullah, who is the author of the book in which we did in Germantown a month ago, of what was called, what everyone? Al-Ha'iyah. Ha'iyah, Ibn Abi Dawood, or Abdullah ibn Abi Dawood. That was his son. His son authored that book. But his father was Abu Dawood, Sahib al-Sunan. That was his father. He's the one that narrated this hadith in his Sunan. And Abu Dawood, as we know, his name was Sulaiman ibn Ash'ath. Sulaiman ibn Ash'ath. Ibn Ishaq ibn Aus. No. Sulaiman ibn Ash'ath ibn Ishaq. Ibn Ishaq. Ibn Bashir. Ibn Shaddad. Al-Azdi al-Sijistani. Al-Azdi al-Sijistani. The great Imam, Sahib al-Imam Ahmad. And as we know, Abu Dawood was the companion and the student of who, everyone? Al-Imam Ahmad. As we know, there's a book called Su'alat, Abu Dawood al-Imam Ahmad. There's a book that I have in my library. It's called The Questions of Abu Dawood for Imam Ahmad. Of affairs of Jarh wa Ta'dil. Of affairs pertaining to Jarh wa Ta'dil. And certain narrators of hadith that Imam Ahmad was asked about. And this is a book called Su'alat. Questions Sunnah of Abu Dawood asked for Imam Ahmad. And about certain narrators. But at any rate, that's to show what, everyone? It's to show that Abu Dawood was a companion and student of who, everyone? Of Imam Ahmad. طيب. Let's go to the Masail. Let's go now to the matters. Who wants to read the first one? It says the first matter is what, everyone? Tafsir qawlah wa la taqum fihi abada. Do not what? Do not stand in it ever. We already talked about that in the first part of the chapter. I mean, it wasn't permissible to pray in it, or to offer an aspect of worship, to offer an aspect or the fair worship in that particular place. The second matter, which is what, everyone? نعم أن المعصية قد تؤثر في الأرض وكذلك الطاعة that disobedience affects the earth and affects the land. And likewise, similar to that, on the opposite side of the spectrum, at-ta'ah, obedience, uprightness, likewise affects the land, has an effect on the land. So how is that, ya ma'ashal ikhwa? How? Due to the fact that this land, what the people were offering as a sacrifice upon polytheism, to the point where it was made or declared unlawful to perform an affair that is legislated in that particular place. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Huh? What you say? I thought you said no. I said that this land, that due to the fact that this type of disobedience was done, which was polytheism, to the point where another aspect of worship which is legislated cannot be done in that particular place. It cannot be done in that particular place. And that's to show that this type of obedience affected the land, or affected that particular specific place. To the point where, like he said, it's unlawful for the person to do that aspect of worship out of fear that he would be resembling the polytheists. But we gave some details in regards to what, everyone? The church. We made that clear. The affair, what we're discussing right now, is what, everyone? Dhabh. Offering as a sacrifice. A dhabh, right, everyone? It's not in regards to salah. In regards to salah. Something that's different. That wouldn't be similar to performing what the mushrikeen would do of offering a sacrifice if one just temporarily on the road haphazardly stopped to pray a salah and then continued his journey. He stopped momentarily happened to know that this was a place where they was slaughter or offer as a sacrifice for other than Allah, and he prayed his prayer in that particular place and continued about his, or continue on his way or continued in his journey or what have you, then we said that that is permissible. However, what is impermissible is to do a worship that was similar to what they were doing. So the affair is dwelling around what? Offering as a sacrifice or slaughtering, not around the salah. That's the reason why we said it's permissible for a person. Alhamdulillah, our brothers did it in the UK. Our brothers in Birmingham, Abu Hakim, Hafidullah, and also Abu Idris, opened up a masjid, and it was a church. It was a church before they turned it to the masjid. And they have removed all, they say, Tams Ma'alim Ad-Din al-Nasrani. They removed all the different signs and the different, if you want to say, the different types of, how you want to say, Ma'alim. The different types of aspect or idols or any type of symbols, that's the word I'm looking for, that's hung up to show or aid, to show the Christian religion or to so-called call to it, they all removed it. And they changed it to a masjid. And it became a place of ibadah. In that particular instance, we know that it's permissible for one to do that. To change the church, if it's broken down, to one to come, to change it, remove all the symbols that aids their religion, remove it, have it totally wiped away, and in exchange, make it a masjid. Is it clear? I'm saying everyone? Jayd. طيب. Also likewise, the third, which is the third one? رد المسألة المشكلة إلى المسألة البينة ليزول الإشكال. To turn the problematic affair or something that's not clear to an affair that is clear, in order for the problem to be what? Removed. How is that related, and what evidence in this chapter establishes this fact that the great Imam had mentioned? Where? In which particular narration? In the narration of Thabit ibn Dahhak, the one we just covered. Exactly. When the Prophet ﷺ, when a man says, Al-Mana' min al-dhabh fi hadha al-makan amrun mushkil. Because slaughter or sacrificing in that particular place was a problematic affair. So he came to the Messenger of Allah seeking more what? Seeking more detail. After the Prophet ﷺ had investigated and asked him a little bit more what? Questions. Now, the fourth. The one who's, of course, the mufti, the one who's being asked a religious ruling, investigating and asking for more details if there is a need for that. And I think that's clear. Inshallah. What's the fifth? جيد. تخصيص أو أن تخصيص البقعة بالنذر لا بأس به إذا خلا من الموانع. He says that particularizing a place, al-buq'ah, particularizing a place with nadhr, with a vow, there's no problem with it. As long as it's been removed, those mawani', those prohibited matters. As long as it's been removed, those prohibited matters. So we said previously, if everyone remember, that even though he said this place called Buwana, he specified the place where he wanted to perform his vow. The place was called Buwana. As long as it's no problem that it would have been no problem if he would have did it there or any other place. Of course, as long as he did not what? As long as it did not have those other prohibited matters that were present in which the Prophet ﷺ had asked him. Was it an Eid in it, or was it a what? Or was it a place where they would likewise slaughter or offer their sacrifices to other than Allah? If those affairs have been removed, then of course one can slaughter in that particular place. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? The sixth. Exactly. The mu'allif or the author, the mu'allif rahimahullah, he put in the sixth matter, which is what? المنع منه إذا كان فيه وثن من أوثان الجاهلية ولو بعد زواله. Exactly. The prohibition of what? Of likewise not doing it. So it's the opposite of the previous one. He says المنع منه إذا كان فيه وثن من أوثان الجاهلية ولو بعد زواله. The prohibition from that if it's in it a wathan. We're talking about the meaning of wathan, those paganistic idols. From the idols of Jahiliyyah, meaning that they could not perform it in that place if there was in it those particular idols, even if they were removed. Even if they were removed. And that's also a benefit to show how polytheism also likewise affects the land. And it renders the land and affects it in a manner in which certain aspects of worship that are legislated can be performed in it, to the point, like we said, to show how evil this disobedience, especially polytheism, does to the land. طيب. The seventh. Say it again. He said, even if, what did they say in the book? Even if, no, just read it. Even if it has stopped since a long time. Okay. No, I don't know why they translate it like that. But anyway, the prohibited from performing that worship if it was in it a celebration of the polytheists, even after it's been removed, or even after it's gone away, or it's been removed, or what have you. So the Prophet ﷺ said, if there was an Eid or a celebration from their celebrations, then likewise one cannot slaughter for other than Allah. Similar to that. The eighth, what's the eighth, everyone? أنه لا يجوز الوفاء بما نظر في تلك البقعة لأنه نذر معصية. It's not permissible for fulfillment with a vow in that particular place, because it would have been a what? A vow of disobedience. And we said that vow of disobedience is not permissible for one to do it. Whether or not it carries out or not is something we'll discuss in the upcoming chapter. Does it carry out where a person has to do an expiation or not? Or does he have to do, or does he not have to do an expiation? All those details are going to come. طيب, ninth. جيد. الحذر من مشابهة المشركين في أعيادهم ولو لم يقصده. Listen to this very carefully. He says to be on guard, for one, to not indulge in. He said, and be very cautious of resembling the mushrikeen in their celebrations, even though the person did not intend it. That's not in their intention. So you notice that the hukum or the ruling is pertaining to something that's just merely what? Apparent. Not looking at the what? Not looking at the intention. So if a Muslim now would come to say, we're not intended to resemble the mushrikeen, then you will find still that the Prophet ﷺ, and a lot of different affairs, where you'll find that the Sahabi had good intentions, and he still what? Prohibited. Or he reprimanded, or he taught him and advised him and also admonished him. For example, which is going to come with the Prophet ﷺ, one of the Sahaba came to him and said, O Messenger of Allah, ma sha Allah wa shit. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أجعلتني لله ندا بل ما شاء الله وحده أو قل ما شاء الله ثم شئت. The hadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and listen to this particular narration, everyone. It seemed like the man wanted good. He wouldn't mean any harm. It seemed like he intended good. So Sahabi came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم and said to him, O Messenger of Allah, whatever Allah wills, and you will. And he was saying it because he thought he was saying something good. And you would find that the man, or that Sahabi radiallahu anh, had what, everyone? Had good intentions. Of what he said. He wasn't trying to harm anyone. Rather, he had, and it seemed like he wanted good. The Prophet ﷺ still had to what? Teach him. That's an incorrect statement. He says, أَجَعِدْتَنِي لِلَّهِ نِدًّا. did you make me along with Allah a partner or one similar? He says, rather, whatever Allah wills, alone. In one narration it says, say whatever Allah wills, then you will. Then you will. So the Prophet ﷺ had what? Only looked to what appeared from him, or what was apparent. Not looking at the what? The niyyah. And that's exactly what we discussed a couple of lessons ago, right everyone? To show that the intention is not to look in the niyyah, rather, the hukum is bid-dhahir. The actual ruling is based upon what is apparent, what manifested to us, or what the people had what? Shown. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And it's not for us to look inside the intentions of the people. Rather, we're supposed to what? Look to what has been presented. However, in this narration, it says here, even if a person did not intend that affair, still what he did was still resemblance, regardless of what he intended it or not. So in this particular regard, what we're discussing here is it says to be uncautious of resembling the mushrikeen. And you will even find that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, likewise in his book called Iqtida' al-Sirat al-Mustaqim, really spoke on this affair of resembling the polytheists and a lot of different affairs in which the Prophet ﷺ had warned for his ummah not to resemble the polytheists in a lot of different affairs. And he wrote this tremendous treatise teaching and giving every detail of how the Prophet ﷺ told his ummah to oppose the mushrikeen or oppose the people of the book in a lot of different affairs to not resemble them. Because there are people who Allah's anger have fell upon due to their acts they committed and their disobedience of what they had done. So the Prophet ﷺ, in this particular treatise, which is called Iqtida' al-Sirat al-Mustaqim fi Mukhalafati Ashab al-Jahim. In this particular book in which Shaykh al-Islam authored, which is tremendous, the book is called the necessitation of clinging to the correct straight path, the necessitation of clinging to the correct straight path by opposing the inhabitants of hell. Just listen to the title. The title is tremendous. By opposing the inhabitants of hell. اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم في مخالفة أصحاب الجحيم. And opposing the inhabitants of hell. In that particular book, Shaykh al-Islam wrote, and he brought all the different narrations of how the Prophet ﷺ commanded, and he started off with affairs of worship. Shaykh al-Islam brought narrations of the Prophet ﷺ of how commanding the ummah of not resembling the mushrikeen, especially in the affairs of worship. And he mentioned this particular narration, where you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam had mentioned and said that he prohibited that resemblance can take place. He mentioned this in his book, Iqtida' al-Sirat al-Mustaqim. He said that resemblance can take place, and it is not a stipulation, al-qasd, that intention is not a stipulation. Like one, whether he intended it or not. If the resemblance took place, that's enough. And it's not looked at, it has to be a prerequisite that the person actually intended to do it. So that reason that is what? It was prohibited from doing it, even if the person did not intend it. There's another book that's actually considered a summary of that book, of Iqtida' al-Sirat al-Mustaqim, which is called Masail al-Jahiliyyah by Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, likewise. By Shaykh al-Islam, likewise, the author of this book. He wrote a book called Al-Masail al-Jahiliyyah, the matters of pre-Islamic ignorance. That book also, that's like a little smaller version of Iqtida' al-Sirat al-Mustaqim. We find that Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab kind of summarized the treatise of Shaykh al-Islam, his book Iqtida'. And that book is called Masail al-Jahiliyyah, in which alhamdulillah, I had a time to teach about, I would say, a third of that book. I talked about a third of the book, and it was a tremendous treatise. It's called Al-Masail al-Jahiliyyah. That book is an excerpt, or I'll say more of a summary of Shaykh al-Islam book, Iqtida' al-Sirat al-Mustaqim. But at any rate, Shaykh al-Islam had also mentioned clearly in that particular book that resemblance is not a prerequisite in it, intention. If resemblance takes place, it's enough that a person has to still be on guard of resembling the mushrikeen, especially in that aspect of the ibad. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب, the 10th The 10th matter, لا نظر في معصية. That there's no what? That there's no vow in disobedience. Meaning that one doesn't do it because he does not do it. For example, if Allah gives me 3 children, if Allah gives me a child, then it's upon me for Allah to eat pig meat. It's upon me for Allah to eat pig meat or to eat pork. Does it carry out? Or does one do it? No. Does he have to do expiation? That's going to come. That's going to come. طيب لا نظر لابن آدم فيما لا يملك. The last one is what, everyone? Jayyid. There's no fulfillment for the vow if it's in something that Ibn Adam or the son of Adam does not possess or he doesn't own. Or it's not in his possession, meaning in his ownership. It changed that. That's a bad translation. Incapable of? No, that's incorrect. What he doesn't own. Incapable of? No. What he doesn't own. He doesn't own it. He's not capable of. Let me break this down. It is right in a manner. Let me break it down now. What one does not own breaks down to 2 types. Write this down. What one does not own, meaning as far as legislatively in the Kitaab and Sunnah. Of course, meaning of what's not his possession, what's a property of someone else. So that's the first category. Meaning someone else's car, someone else's house, someone else's property, whatever. Can't make a vow to give it away. That's something you don't possess, something you don't, it's not in your ownership. It's not in your ownership. That's as far as in the Shara'. That's as far as in the Shara' of what is legislative, or what is legislatively been what? In Kitab and Sunnah. That's clear. The second category, yes, that is correct. Meaning what he's capable of, what he owns, meaning of what is in his ability. What does it mean? Meaning, if I said of what is of the qadr, meaning what Allah has preordained, of the what He's preordained in the creation. What do I mean? But once I get the example, it's going to be clear. For example, if Allah cures my brother of his sickness, then it's upon me for Allah to fly in the air. It's upon me for Allah to fly in the air. Meaning without an airplane, me and my wings, act like I got wings and I'm going to fly in the air. Do you own that? Is that in your capability? So you have what is shara'i, you have what is qadri. Shara'i meaning what? Allah has preordained in its existence of what you cannot own, what you do not own, meaning of Kitab and Sunnah, what has been legislated, or what is not under your jurisdiction as far as your property, what you own. Then you have what you own, meaning in regards to your body. Meaning of something that is not in your capability, such as, like I said, it's upon me for Allah to fly. Or it's upon me for Allah, if Allah cures my brother, it's upon me to walk on top of water. That's not in your ability. Can anyone, you understand what I'm saying, everyone? So technically, yes, they didn't give the details, but they didn't give the full details, basically. They just gave half. So it breaks down those 2 categories. You have what a person owns, shara'an, as far as in regards to what's been legislated, Kitab and Sunnah, of what is in your possession and what is under your ownership. And you have number 2, which is what, everyone? Is what you not, or what you own as far as qadri, in its existence. Meaning of what is in your ability or your physical capability or what have you. Is it clear? Jay. As we move on to the next chapter, we have a couple of more minutes. As we move on to the next chapter, as it says, the new chapter, as you see how it's been connected. As you notice in the new chapter that it's talking about shirk an-nadhru li ghayrillah. طيب. So notice that all three of the chapters that we've been covering are all connected some type of way. They're all connected. So he went from one aspect of worship to another aspect of worship. So all this is given the tafsir and the meaning of La ilaha illallah in detail. As we talked about, number one, of course, slaughtering for other than Allah is polytheism. Then we talked about the chapter that came directly after that one, which is what? That's not permissible to slaughter or sacrifice in a place that is being offered in it, sacrifice for other than Allah. So that leads you down the road to what? Polytheism. However, when you look inside of the text of the hadith that has preceded, which is Thabit ibn al-Dhahhak al-Ashhali, the great Sahabi, how it was connected as far as when he performed a vow along with him slaughtering. So based upon that narration being connected, he started speaking and expounding on or giving details on another affair of worship, which is called taking a vow. So now that we've finished and concluded and finalized the matter in regards to slaughtering and offering as a sacrifice, finished. Now we move on to another affair of worship, which is called nadhr. So now you see how they're somewhat connected. So number one, like we said, notice it says in the title of the chapter, that the chapter Babu min ash-shirki an-nadhru li ghayrillah. The chapter says from polytheism is taking a vow or offering a vow for other than Allah. So the affair of the ibadah, another affair of the ibadah which we're going to speak about is what, everyone? It's speaking about taking a vow and doing it for other than Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And you'll have different types of wordings that a person can take a vow verbally. Verbally. He can say, for example, for what's polytheistic type of polytheistic, if you want to say for lack of better words, type of statement, that is for Jesus, the son of Mary, that I'll fast for 3 days straight. Or you can even say our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is prohibited. And that doesn't now justify it just because it was our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be angry if a person said that. That, he says, for the message of Allah, that if he cures my sick, then it's for him to fast for 3 days straight. That's polytheism. Right, everyone? That's polytheism. Or for this particular grave with this dead person in it, for him, upon me, is to what? Pray tahajjud for 2 weeks straight. That's what? Polytheism. Or for angel Jibreel, or for Jibreel, or for Mikael, or for the angels. All of that is drawing close to them, not drawing close to Allah Ta'ala by this worship. I ask everyone, what is worse? If a person took a vow of disobedience or took a vow of polytheism? Which is worse? Yusha. Jade. To take a vow of polytheism is worse than taking a vow of what? Of disobedience. Even though both are evil and it's incumbent upon the individual to stay far away from it. But, like we said, there are levels of sins, even though they're all tremendous. But in regards to what's connected with each other, as far as their levels, then there's one that is higher than another, even though generally all of them are tremendous, no doubt. But there's nothing compared to the level of what? Polytheism. So even if it's obedience in the aspect of the particular thing that's been specified to be offered, if it's for other than Allah, then it is considered polytheism and it will nullify one's Islam if he does it. As far as in regards to now, I want to ask a question. If a person now was to perform a vow, and it was for other than Allah, Does it carry out to the point where he will have to offer an expiation? Is it clear what I'm saying? Shirk, polytheism. Tayyib. Amir says yes. Amir says he still have to offer expiation. What do you say, Ali? Keep in mind, not shirk. This is not disobedience. This is shirk. Expiation is going to come, inshallah. Or an atonement or expiation is going to come. Tayyib. Keep in mind, brother, this is shirk. If you do it, this nullify your Islam. So how, if Islam is nullified, how will anything benefit you? Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Type. So now listen. وهذا النظر لغير الله لا ينعقد أصلا. لا ينعقد إطلاقا ولا تجب فيه كفارة بل هو شرك تجب التوبة منه كالحلف بغير الله فلا ينعقد وليس فيه كفارة. أما النظر المعصية فينعقد لكن لا يجوز الوفاء به وعليه كفارة يمين كالحلف بالله على المحرم ينعقد وفيه كفارة وقد ذكر المؤلف في هذا الباب آيتين to the end of it. طيب. So if a person now gives this worship to other than Allah, of course he's now polytheist generally. It's the general ruling. So this vow right now for other than Allah does not carry out at all. And there's no expiation that's obligatory as a result of it. Rather, it's polytheism, and it's obligatory that a person has to make tawbah. Forget it. Forget expiation. You need to make tawbah. Because you nullified your Islam. So, for example, swearing by other than Allah Ta'ala. Oh, is Salah about to come in? What time does it come in, Amir? Oh, it's about to come in. For example, swearing by other than Allah. No. Repentance. For example, swearing by other than Allah. If a person swears by Allah, does he have to do an expiation? We say no. He swears by other than Allah. And it does not have any expiation in it. However, as far as swearing by other than Allah, that has some details in it. Because the origin of swearing by other than Allah is what? It's what type of polytheism? Is it major or minor? No, swearing by other than Allah. Think. Swearing by other than Allah in its origin is what? Is minor polytheism. If what he swore by, he thinks it's at the level of Allah. What he swore by, of the creation. That he has the i'tiqad that it has the same power of Allah over his life, that person has this same exact power as Allah does to affect his life some type of way. Then it's major. But if he just swearing by it because that's something he does habitually, which he's known by, but however he ultimately believes that Allah Ta'ala is the one who's the dominant and control over his life and affects what takes place in his life, there's minor polytheism. However, nadhr is slightly different. Because nadhr, taking a vow in it, is a type of worship still in it. You got to think, when a person takes a vow, then what are they saying? For example, upon me for Allah is to do such and such. Upon me for Allah, to Allah is to do such and such. Upon me for Allah is to do such and such. So in actuality, it's an act of worship which is being done. Rather, you'll find that swearing is just merely by the what? It's by the tongue in which, I swear by Allah I didn't do this. Or I swear by Allah I didn't do that. Or I swear by Allah you said such and such. Or I swear by Allah you did this. Or I swear by Allah I seen you yesterday. Or whatever. However, nadhr always contains in it some type of what? Something in it of which you're trying to establish of some type of ibadah. It's similarities in nadhr of another being similar to swearing and swearing being similar to a vow. It has some similarities in it which we're going to discuss, but they're also different in certain aspects. In certain aspects they are different. But nadhr is the aspect of worship that if it's done for other than Allah, then it's major polytheism. And the origin of it is major polytheism. طيب. In regards to some of the ayat, and I think it's in your books, in which you'll find that the author that he mentioned, in it is Surah Al-Baqarah. There's a lot of different ayat. But he sufficed by mentioning one ayat in this chapter, even though there's other ayats. And he mentioned, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ. That you do not spend of any wealth or any spending or take a vow of any vow except that Allah has full knowledge of it. Also, there's other ayats which comes in Surah Al-Hajj, in Surah Al-Insan, Surah Al-Dahr, as we know. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, and we'll stop here, inshaAllah, فَلْيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ وَلْيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ وَلْيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. The first narration it says, let them fulfill their vow. Well, one narration says, فَلْيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ. There's a narration that comes, the ayah which comes in Surah Al-Hajj, ayah number 29. Let them fulfill their vows. What's in now? Okay. السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. طيب, I have about maybe 10 minutes and that's it. So use ayat in which establish the affair nadhr, in which you'll find that the great Imam mentioned, rahimahullah, that he said about nadhr is considered worship which is only exclusively for Allah Jalla wa Azz. You'll find in different ayats, but he sufficed by mentioning one ayat in this chapter. The Surah Al-Baqarah and ayat number 270, and likewise there's other ayat, which is the Surah Al-Insan and Surah Al-Hajj. Ayat number 29, where Allah Ta'ala says, let them fulfill their vows. Let them fulfill their vows. Also the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, which we'll discuss next lesson inshallah, where it says, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من نظر أن يطيع الله فليطيعه من نظر أن يطيع الله فليطيعه. ولحديث عائشة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, the authority of our mother Aisha رضي الله عنها says, whoever took a vow to obey Allah, then let him obey him. And whoever took a vow to disobey Allah, then do not disobey him. You'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, that there are some ahl ilm, and you'll find as if Shaykh Uthaymeen even leans towards that position that it's impermissible to take another, to take a vow. That one should not do it at all. Number one, due to the fact that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, say, La tandhiru. I think that's enough. Do not take a vow. La tandhiru. You'll find in certain Muslim countries, people are quick to take vows. Like they're trying to prove something. If Allah does this for me, I'll do this for him. And that's why you'll find this is as if their ibadah is based upon a compensation. And which shows that as if they're not content that Allah Ta'ala preordained certain affairs, that if they do something, Allah will give them in exchange for something that they are doing as a compensation. Oh Allah, if I do this for you, then do this for me. Or if Allah gives me this, then it's upon me for Allah, this ibadah. And that's a type of what? Affair in which you'll find because of this, how some of the Ahl Ilm lead towards it being haram. That to take a vow is what? Is impermissible. And you'll find that's why you'll find that the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami used to call it ibadatun mustaqillatun fadha. He said it's an ibadah that is what? It's independently separate from a lot of other ibadat. Rather it stands alone, because you'll find that in the tafsir of La ilaha illallah, all the ibadats that's supposed to be exclusively for Allah, you'll never find it's detested or find in its origin that some of Ahl Ilm say it's haram to do it. There's a lot of affairs of ibadah, rather it's been commanded, and Allah Ta'ala loves that ibadah. But here in this instance, it stands out alone from those other aspects of various types of worship. And that's why they would call it ibadatun mustaqillatun fadha. It's an ibadah that's separate and stands out alone from those other affairs or other various types of worship. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? So that's the reason why you'll find that even Shaykh al-Islam had leaned towards it being haram. For example, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam yamilu ila an-nahi an. He leans towards it being prohibited. Why? Because he says, لأنك تلزم نفسك بأمر أنت في عافية منه وكم من إنسان نظر وأخيرا ندم وربما لم يفعل ويدل لقوة القول بتحريم النذر لقوله تعالى وأقسموا بالله جهد إيمانه. We got to stop. And I'm going to stop here and then we'll continue next time. He says because the reason why that he leans towards the statement of it being impermissible. He said, why? Because you're binding upon yourself something of affair that you were free from. That's number one. You were totally free from it. Now you're binding upon yourself something. It says that how many people took a vow and in the end they regretted it. They had severe remorse. And he says that because they did not do it. And also likewise, and I'm going to end it off here, what comes in the ayah in Surah An-Nur, ayah number 53. He says, وَيَدُلُّ لِقُوَّةِ الْقَوْلِ بِتَحْرِيمِ النَّذْرِ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى وَأَقْسَمُوا بِاللَّهِ جَهْدَ أَيْمَانِهِمْ لَإِنْ أَمَرْتَهُمْ لَيَخْرُجُونَ. As Allah Ta'ala says, لَا تُقْسِمُوا طَاعَةٌ مَعْرُوفًا. The ayah which is in Surah An-Nur, he says that they swear by Allah, جَهْدَ أَيْمَانِهِمْ, exhausting and having these weary types of what? This weary type of act of swearing. That if you commanded us, they will definitely go out in the battle. Meaning that they used to what? Try to swear and wear out their so-called the ibadah of swearing constantly. Using this to the point where they will always try to put emphasis on it by swearing. Now, if you tell us, O Messenger of Allah, we'll do it. If you tell us, we'll do it. But in this particular context, this kind of what? Resembles a vow. That if you do this, then we'll do this. If you do this, we'll do this. Because that we said that's a type of vow, right, everyone? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had admonished them by saying this. By saying, don't swear. Just do it. You understand? Allah ta'ala said, don't swear. Just do it. Just do the worship. If you think you say you're going to do it, do it. Ta'atu ma'rufa, the worship is known, meaning do it. You ain't got to keep, oh, we're going to, wallahi, if you say this, we're going to do it. If you say we're going to do it, wallahi, we'll do it. No. If you truly believe in Allah, just go ahead and do it. Meaning that what? Hasana has to be what? A swear behind it. وَالْإِنسَانَ الَّذِي لَا يَفْعَلُ الطَّاعَةِ, for the man that does the type of aspect of obedience except by vow, or he swears upon it, it's as if the worship is heavy upon him. It's as if the what? The worship is like a burden or it's heavy upon him. That's one of the reasons why you'll find that Ahl-Ilm lean towards it being what? It's being impermissible. And you'll find as if that Shaykh Uthaymeen is what? He's leaning towards this statement. Because he's mentioned this. He says what indicates the strength of this statement or this position, that how strong this statement is as if he's saying that what? He leans to that statement. That one should not even do it. But we'll stop here, inshallah. If there's any questions, we'll take it from the brothers, inshallah. We'll continue Wednesday. Any questions about the lesson?